Welcome to the Vintage Hollywood Archive, where I introduce you to the most astonishing stories about your favorites from the vintage Hollywood era. If you are not a part of the Friendship Circle, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and join the Golden Age fan group. If you are already a part of our community, please be sure to turn on your notifications bell so you can always know when I post a new video. Now, let's get straight to this video. How Yvonne De Carlo satisfied her enamorous lust. Before Yvonne De Carlo graced TV screens as iconic vampire Lily in the Munsters, she was one of Hollywood's most glamorous stars. Her blue eyes and dark hair gave her a look that made producers scream, but their treatment of her was also scream-worthy. Her personal life, meanwhile, was a downright horror show. Yvonne De Carlo, the young woman, would become one of filmdom's great beauties. She would appear opposite some of Hollywood's greatest stars, date some of the most famous men in the world, and become a pop culture icon. A vibrant, full-bodied performer with a rich voice and a lushly sensuous, if somewhat odd beauty, Yvonne De Carlo achieved stardom in the 1940s in some of the more bizarre escapisms from that era. During her heyday and later in character roles, she acted in remarkably few films that could be called first class or even important. Given how campy many of her credits are, it is fitting that De Carlo is best known because of TV syndication as the sensible but ghoulish Lily Munster on the silly, if often funny, horror spoof sitcom The Munsters. As with many female stars in the 50s, Susan Hayward, Eleanor Parker, and Baxter, put into routine melodrama, she could give overblown performances, yet likable and talent were there. Genuine feeling mixed with a flair for comedy that wasn't properly tapped often enough. The result was a career that, in its own way, lasted, such that when the 50-ish De Carlo impressively belted out the show-stopping "I'm Still Here" in the wonderful Stephen Sondheim Broadway musical Follies, all the poor roles she was given or had to do seemed irrelevant because the woman had a point. Before she became the wholesome vampire TV mom we all know and love, Yvonne De Carlo was breaking hearts and lighting up the silver screen as a glamorous Hollywood starlet. The resourceful daughter of a waitress with big ambitions, De Carlo constantly reinvented herself. A natural at publicity, she shrewdly kept her name in the public consensus with a life that served as constant fodder for ever-hungry Hollywood gossip columnists. Media rushed to report on her numerous dates with the big names of the day as De Carlo left a string of famous lovers in her wake. But before she was breaking hearts in Hollywood, De Carlo was a Vancouver-born girl who performed at local theaters and nightclubs. Born in 1922, she started out life as Margaret Yvonne Middleton, later combining her middle name and her mother's maiden name to give herself the stage name for which she was known. Nurses at St. Paul's Hospital remembered De Carlo's mother, Mary, shouting before giving birth, "I want a girl! I must have a girl! I want the dancer!" She got her wish, but before that happened, the family went through immense heartbreak. When Yvonne was just 3, her father William abandoned the family after doing a series of shady deals with the wrong people. As if that weren't soap opera enough, a slew of rumors then claimed he had perished at sea while trying to get away. Whatever the truth is, was no foundation to build a healthy childhood for a girl. And then her mother had to go and make it worse. Yvonne's mother Mary never lost her deep desire to watch her little girl become a star. She went to disturbing lengths to get her dream. After enrolling her in dance and singing school, Marie also drove them down constantly to Los Angeles to attend beauty contests and other public stunts, all in the hopes that the teenager would attract attention. However, always wanted to be a singer and was blessed with a strong voice and lively personality, both of which would serve her well throughout her life. De Carlo trained at June Roper's British Columbia School of Dance, where she showed off a natural talent for both singing and dancing. It was there that she got her first opportunities to perform, later playing in shows at the Orpheum Theater and scoring a gig at the brand new Palomar Supper Club. After several years of ballet lessons, her mother announced that they were going to Hollywood for a chance at stardom. Her formal education was erratic at best, but she continued to dance uninterrupted, although she shifted from ballet to other forms of dance that fit her build much better. The first trip to Hollywood proved unsuccessful. but at the age of 17, Margaret Yvonne Middleton became Yvonne De Carlo, dancing in Vancouver nightclubs. Before long, De Carlo and her waitress mother went out to Hollywood with dreams of making it big. But it took a while. De Carlo performed in nightclubs at night and auditioned at studios during the day. Already a standout beauty, Yvonne returned to Hollywood with her mother and at the age of 18, and won the Miss Venice Beach Beauty Contest, which gave her the confidence for nightclub work in Hollywood and eventually opened the door to the movies. She got a contract with Paramount Pictures, but ended up serving as a foil for the male actors' screen tests and playing unremarkable parts. Paramount Pictures signed De Carlo to a contract in August 1942. While there, she appeared in bit parts in about 20 movies, which included uncredited roles in several notable productions, like Frank Tuttle's This Gun for Hire and David Butler's Road to Morocco, in which she played Dorothy Lamour's handmaiden. Both of those were released in 1942. As great as the movies were, however, they weren't getting her any real attention. What got her attention were the USO shows she was a part of, which made her a favorite pinup of the boys in uniform, and she loved singing for them. When the contract expired, she got her big break, the leading role in Universal Pictures' 1945 western, Salome, where she danced. Producer Walter Wagner cast her not only in Charles Lamont's Salome, but in Where She Danced, which led to a $350 a week contract with Universal. A New York Times film critic remarked that she had all the looks one girl could ask for, adding that she dances with a sensuousness which must have caused the Hays office some anguish. The Hays Code he referred to determined what was acceptable and unacceptable content for motion pictures, keeping out material the group deemed inappropriate for viewers. De Carlo recalled her big entrance in the film. "I came through these beaded curtains, wearing a Japanese kimono and a Japanese headpiece, and then performed a Siamese dance," she said. Nobody seemed to know quite why. The studio had undergone a nationwide search for the perfect girl to play the part of Salome, claiming they considered more than 20,000 girls. The chosen actress had to be beautiful as well as talented in song and dance. When De Carlo was chosen, she was dubbed the most beautiful girl in the world by American film producer Walter Wagner. She was an unstoppable force. Before she knew it, Yvonne De Carlo was Universal's hottest property, and the studio demanded she never be seen in public as anything less than a star. That was a demand De Carlo could meet easily. She was beautiful, confident, exotic, mysterious, and excelled at getting the attention of the press. In fact, no studio could have asked for a more perfect personification of movie star. She relished the role and enjoyed every minute of it. It's no surprise that billionaire producer Howard Hughes pursued her as he did many famous beauties of the Golden Age. The two dated for a time, until Yvonne mentioned marriage. She also had a serious relationship with Robert Stack, who remained an admirer of hers his entire life. Although I'd like to, I can't name all the men Yvonne De Carlo dated here because according to what she wrote in her autobiography, Yvonne, an autobiography, she went out with many men, including Burt Lancaster, Robert Taylor, and Billy Wilder. And she noted in a TV interview following the book's release, there were a few truck drivers in there too. Already, Yvonne was acquiring a reputation for being easy. She was also more than willing to make headlines. Any publicity was good publicity, she felt, that kept her name before the cinema-going public. Affairs with bandleader Artie Shaw and Howard Hughes were common knowledge. In her 1974 autobiography, she describes Hughes as an expert lover, although she was quite put off by the man's toenails, which she said curled almost all the way into his toes. "Howard taught me how to land a plane and how to take off. But he never taught me anything about flying in between," she said. "He thought that I had to learn the difficult parts, and that was enough." Hughes was an odd fish to say the least. Yvonne's other lengthy relationship during the war included those with singer-slash-actor Rudy Vallee and actors Carlos Thompson and Sterling Hayden. Robert Stack and Yvonne were an item for some months in 1946. A year after that, she was briefly engaged to Howard Duff. In her memoirs, Yvonne happily names the many famous men who visited her bed. Quite a few were serious relationships that she hoped might evolve into true love, even marriage, but there were an awful lot of one-night stands too. Somewhere along the way, she found time for several seemingly serious involvements. James Stewart, Ray Milland, Scott Brady, and Prince Ali Khan all intimated they were in love with her, but none of them went the distance. In 1949, she broke up with Jock Mahoney, Sally Field's stepdad, after suffering a miscarriage. The breakup was not amicable, Yvonne telling reporters that Jock's only claim to fame was being seen with her. Her next serious entanglements were with Steve Cochran, Rock Hudson, and bullfighter Mario Cabaret and Robert Taylor in 1953. Among her many sexual encounters were the following: the Saw of Persia, Rod Cameron, Walter Matthau, Errol Flynn, Red Skelton, Anthony Quinn, Billy Wilder, and Burt Lancaster. According to her autobiography, she and Burt made love on a mink coat in her backyard. Like many of her encounters, it was a one-off thing. De Carlo went on to star in numerous films, often playing the exotic beauty in Western or donning a harem dress for Sex and Sand films, such as 1947's Slave Girl and 1948's Casbah. Her career later took a more serious turn with what turned out to be one of her most memorable roles. She played Moses' wife Sephora alongside Charlton Heston in Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments in 1956. To this day, The Ten Commandments remain one of the highest-grossing films ever made, and it sprung De Carlo's career to heights that she never thought possible. On the set of The Ten Commandments, De Carlo fell in love with stuntman Bobby Morgan, who she had met a year prior while working on Shotgun. Morgan had a daughter from his previous marriage who De Carlo would later raise as her own. Together, they had 2 sons, Bruce and Michael. And Bruce's godfather was none other than director Cecil B. DeMille. De Carlo's Ten Commandments role served as a launchpad to later roles like Amantha Starr in 1957's Band of Angels. Unfortunately, the movie wasn't a commercial hit and had a lukewarm reception. This, Yvonne had no choice but to take a knee and return to the B movies and old westerns she started with. Around this time, Yvonne started to venture into small television roles, guest starring in TV shows like Death Valley Days, Burke Law, and Bonanza. Later, Yvonne's life took an even stranger turn in the midst of a new shift in her career's path when her husband lost his left leg after being run over by a train while filming MGM's How the West Was Won in 1962. The accident left him permanently disabled, and Yvonne appeared in various nightclub acts to help foot her husband's large medical bill. She and Morgan eventually filed a $1.4 million lawsuit against the studio after MGM claimed no responsibility for the accident. According to Yvonne, studio employees were threatened with losing their jobs unless they supported the company's stance that all the precautions had been taken on the set, and that the accident was the fault of no one. With no witnesses to back him, Bob Morgan's suit was unsuccessful. He and Yvonne parted company in 1968. The couple would eventually divorce many years later in 1973. By 1964, De Carlo's popularity was fading. She took a chance at an unusual TV role, playing a campy vampire on sitcom The Munsters. The show premiered on September 24, 1964, and the world would soon see Yvonne De Carlo in a whole new light as the family's matriarch, Lily Munster. This role would define Yvonne's acting career for the rest of her life. Initially, Lily Munster was played by actress Beverly Owen. Owen played the family's matriarch for the first 15 episodes of the series before she was replaced by Yvonne. As soon as Yvonne adjusted to her role in the show, her skepticism and concern faded away. Even co-star Fred Gwynne, who played her Herman Munster and had some concerns about the new cast addition, warmed up to De Carlo's on-set presence. And Fred wasn't the only one. Adults and children across America were charmed by the new Lily Munster and were swept up by the fever of this hilarious new show. Yvonne was told to play her role like Donna Reed, which you may have been able to immediately tell by her makeup, which took roughly 3 hours each shoot to put on and included a 20-plus pound wig. De Carlo, expressive when playing Lily Munster, constantly gestured with her hands to make the character something of her own. Lily looked glamorous and fashionable despite her age, over 100 years old. She also always managed to show off her chops as one spooky, spunky mother and loving wife. The show, despite only having a 2-year run, found a second life in cynicism. De Carlo's gothic Donna Reed role on the show gave her the chance to revamp her image, this time as a mistress of darkness who also happened to be a loving wife and a mother to a family of lovable monster misfits. "It meant security," she said. "It gave me a new, young audience I wouldn't have had otherwise. It made me hot again, which I wasn't for a while." Following the Munsters, De Carlo later made yet another comeback, this time on Broadway, starring in Stephen Sondheim and James Goldman's Follies in 1971. After the Munsters, Yvonne took some time to guest star in shows like The Girl from UNCLE and The Virginian, and went back to her Western roots in the late 60s films Hostile Guns and Arizona Bushwhackers. The actress then took some time to focus on her musical career and star in a 5-month tour of Hello Dolly and a 15-week run of Little Me. She also appeared in the Stephen Sondheim musical Dollies as Carlotta Campion, a role she said was written especially for her. De Carlo continued until 1995, when she unofficially retired from acting. Some highlights included the 1975 comedy film Blazing Stewardesses, the 1980s horror film American Gothic, and the 1990 horror film Mirror Mirror. Yvonne De Carlo's final performance was as Norma in the 1995 Disney television film The Barefoot Executive. This was a remake of the 1971 film of the same name. In 1998, De Carlo suffered a minor stroke, and almost 10 years later, she died of heart failure on January 8, 2007. Her career might have been a large and varied tapestry of film, musical, and television roles, but the world will always remember Yvonne De Carlo as Mrs. Lily Munster. Yvonne De Carlo was acquiring a reputation for being easy. But how much do you know about Claire Trevor? Why was she always a nasty person? Watch this video and find out.